Hello, and welcome to episode 2 of Beauty Microwave Podcast. I'm your host, Shay Gibson. Today we're going to talk about something very glamorous, which is why I decided to dress up for you. We're going to talk about the glamorous eyelash extensions. So I'm going to give you a little bit of history and, as usual, a little bit of drama. So, having long lashes kind of became a thing back in ancient Rome. There was a fella by the name of Pliny the Elder, and yes, that is an odd name, but he was an author. And he went around telling everybody that the reason lashes fell out and people didn't have long lashes is because they had too much sex. So obviously for a young woman, that was a big deal because, you had to be a virgin, you had to be chaste. So all the women did everything they could to have long lashes because they didn't want to be accused of having a lot of sex. Isn't that weird that someone could think sex and lashes had something to do with each other? But that's how things went back then. So moving on to the turn of the century, in the year 1899, women still wanted these long, luxurious lashes. Not for the same reasons that they did back in ancient Rome. However, women knew that lashes were very beautiful and they wanted to be able to bat their eyes and just have these long lashes, which was very alluring. So all women did everything they could. Well, all women that were interested in beauty did everything that they could to get these long lashes. So there are reports of women actually gluing hair to their eyelid to try to get long lashes, and that didn't work because the lashes fell off. So the next thing they did around this time was to have them implanted with a needle into their eyes. Now don't ask me how they did that. All I know is that it didn't work. So in 1916, there was a famous director by the name of D.W. Griffith. A lot of you may have heard of him. Well, he was filming and he decided that he wanted his leading lady to just be beautiful and have long lashes that she could bat, and they would almost touch her cheeks, that they would be so long. So he brought a guy in that did wigs, and what he did is he put hairs onto a piece of gauze and then glued them to her eyelid, and it created these long, beautiful lashes. Now, the movie didn't do well for D.W. Griffith. However, that only increased the popularity of lash extensions. So from that point, you had all kinds of people coming out with new and better ways to make the lashes stay on your eyes and to make them look good. So you had famous people like Twiggy, Marilyn Monroe, Audrey Hepburn. Everyone wore lashes back during that time, and it was just super glamorous to have on your furs, your tiara, and your lashes. Welcome to the 90s, where an innovative and creative person over in Asia came up with eyelash extensions. We all know that eyelash extensions look beautiful on the eyes, but a lot of people don't know how it's actually done. This person came up with a way to extend your lashes by applying one hair to a single lash and then doing that all the way across the eye. It looks like these lashes are just growing right out of your follicle. So this was a really, really creative thing and has grown into one of the biggest trends in the beauty industry. Now, what a lot of people don't know is there's so many different types of lashes. The first lash that came out in like 2000, the early 2000s, that they were using were the individual lashes. Now, they used to be loose in a tray, and you would just pick one up and apply it to the lash. And now they've become creative and put them in like little strips where you can pluck them off. And I kind of use the tape to tape it across my client's forehead, and then I can just easily pluck them off and apply. It's just a faster way of doing the lashes, actually. So that was very smart, whoever came up with that. And then there's also something called fans. Now, this is a pre-made fan, And what it is it's a single lash, but it has multiple hairs attached to it. And so same thing, we pluck that off and apply it to an individual lash. But with the fans, it can be 2D, 3D, all the way up to, I don't know, 8 or 9D, which means they have somewhere between 2 and 8 or 9 lashes to one lash. So imagine if you take that off and you apply that one that has, say, 6D, 6 lashes to one, and you put that on one hair, obviously you're going to get a lot of volume, and that's how people are getting the volume lashes. Now, one of the lashes that people don't think about that I really happen to like is the flare lash, and it's also known as the individual lash. So you've probably seen these in like a beauty supply store. You can take these and it comes with a special glue. So don't try to use eyelash extension glue with the flares because it's a completely different process. So those are semi-permanent and these are not as permanent as those are. So as we get to talking, I'll tell you how long the lash extensions last, which is up to 2 months. But these are going to only last you for 1 to 2 weeks, depending on how you apply them, which glue you use, and who applies them. So I have offered this as a service in my studio before, and it's a really good service, but it can be a little more damaging on the eyelashes than the one-by-one extensions. But I still like this service. Again, individual lashes. Now, everyone knows about the oldie but the goodie, the strip lash. And if you don't, see me after class. But what you may not know is that those were patented in 1911 in the United States by a Canadian woman. Now, let's talk about who can provide the service. So a lot of people get lash extensions. A lot of people go to a studio, a shop, a beauty salon, or maybe even someone's house to have this done. So in most states, you're required to be a licensed esthetician in order to provide this service. But there are some states, like the state of Texas, that has come up with a special license for people who do lashes. So it's a lash extension artist certification. Now, there may be a state or two out there that has 0 requirements. I have heard of that. But mostly you would want to go to someone who has been trained and certified, because there's a lot of different things that can go wrong with extensions if people don't know what they're doing. Also, you do want your artist to be insured, so it's hard to get insured if you don't have some sort of certification or some sort of license to back you up. An insurance company is not going to license someone who's working out of their home that has no type of certification. So next we're going to talk about some common questions that people have about eyelash extensions. Number 1, how long will my lash extensions last? Well, if you look at our previous episode and we talk about lash serums, we go into great detail about the lash cycle. But typically, you can expect them to last up to 60 days, and that's 2 months. And what I mean by that is not every single hair is going to be in your lashes for 2 months. Because remember, your lashes shed on a cycle. So as the hair sheds, the extension is going to fall with it. So your lashes are growing out, the extension is along for the ride. So whenever that lash falls out, the extension is going to fall out with it. Now you have a new hair growing behind that, so that's what's going to be refilled when you go back for your refill appointments. So over a 2-month period, you're not going to have probably but a quarter of the lashes left. And that's if they haven't fallen out due to things that can make them fall out, like steam, oil, and makeup products can make the lashes fall prematurely before the lash actually sheds. But let's pretend that that lash actually was hanging on for the ride. You would probably only have 1/4 of those lashes after 2 months, because most of your lashes will have gone through some sort of shedding cycle. Now, the next question that people ask a lot is, will I lose my own lashes? Well, the answer to that should be no. because of what I just explained. However, if you have a lash artist that is not putting the lash glue along with that lash on one-to-one, and they're connecting other lashes with it, well, during the growing process, remember each lash may have its own cycle. They're not identical. So if this hair is growing along and getting ready to fall, but the lash that is connected to is a new hair that's not ready to fall, then it's going to connect and grow out and be pulled out prematurely. So it's very important that the lash artist just does one hair on one hair, so that they're not affecting the other lashes by gluing them together. So in essence, you won't lose lashes, so that's why it's very important to go to someone who knows what they're doing. Another popular question that people ask a lot is, can I wear mascara? And the answer to that is really no. They do have special mascaras, especially formulated for lash extensions. But if you put something on the lashes, it really doesn't matter if they're saying it's especially formulated or not. It's still adding something to the extensions that can break down the glue. So the short answer is no. Okay? So I don't let my clients do it. If they do it, I don't want to keep them as a client because it just makes my work harder. I have to go in and dig out all that mascara, clean up the lashes really good. They end up losing lashes before I can even go in and do a refill. So it's really best not to wear the mascara. Okay? Another question is, can I use an eyelash curler to curl my lashes? Well, first of all, if you feel a need to use an eyelash curler, then you probably need to talk to your artist about changing the curl pattern of the lashes that they're putting on, because they do come in different kind of shapes. So a J would be something that's not as curled. Then you go to a B, a D, and a C that have different levels of curl. So if you want your lash to be super curly, you want to tell your lash tech that before she starts the application so she can choose the right lash. Now, other things to be concerned about when you're interested in getting lash extensions is maybe some contraindications, meaning some things that if you have these particular things going on like styes or something like that, it's not going to be a good idea to get the lash extensions. So just a short list, and this is not the long list, it's not limited to just these things. But if you have any inflammation or swelling around your eyes, any styes, conjunctivitis, or blepharitis, or if you have any sort of eczema near your eye, you will not be a good candidate to get the extensions, okay? And another thing to know is if you end up having some sort of reaction to the lash extensions, it's very unlikely that you can continue. And I know a lot of people have heard about different types of glues, sensitive glues, and different things like that, and yes, they do exist. However, there is a high probability that you will have a reaction the next time. So for my customers, I do have a special glue that I use that's highly unlikely for people to react, and if people have reacted in the past, I would say about 50% of them can move forward, but the other 50% can never wear lashes again. And that's so important because you don't want to continue to set up those infections, because if an infection gets set up behind your eye and you don't know about it, you can potentially go blind, and it is that serious. So the next thing I want to talk about is just a very little bit about lash glues. So the main ingredient in most lash glues is cyanoacrylate and also carbon black, and you know that that's for the color. So but 90% of it is the cyanoacrylate and maybe a few other ingredients. So the difference between glues is not that they don't have the same ingredients, but it's more like the quality of the ingredients. The ingredients may differ in percentages by very little, but it's the quality of the ingredients that make the glues different. So, you know, your lash artist has to know about this. And then also, there's another thing that people were very concerned about early on, and that was formaldehyde in the glues. But now, if a glue has it, it's less than 0.2%, and typically not even, you don't have to list that in the ingredients if it's that low. But they've also improved the glues to where you don't even need that. It's really not as much of a concern as it was when lash extensions first came out. Well, I hope you got something out of this episode today. It was my pleasure to bring you some information about eyelash extensions. I hope you learned something that you didn't know before, but also it's just good to reiterate things sometimes. And you want to take this information as a consumer and use it to shop around for the right technician, and also to be able to tell that technician what it is that you desire. So now that you know there are multiple types of eyelash extensions, now you're better in the market to go out and search for someone to do the service for you. It was my pleasure to bring you this information, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next week on Beauty Microwave Podcast. Stay beautiful.